Hello, welcome to the Crux of It. Today we're joined by Deane, who I've known for a very long time. I'm trying to think when. It's got to be COVID, wasn't it? We met during COVID. That's when we
Yes,
met.
one of the wonderful
And we,
things that came out of COVID.
yes, one of my favorite people came out of COVID. Two of my favorite people, because little baby Charlie popped up as well, didn't he?
That was so special. Like during the leadership course.
During
Yeah.
the leadership course. And it came about when we were ordering our graduation hoodies, and I had always been an extra small to a small, and I thought all of a sudden I might need a medium. And I was so upset about it that I had a little freak out with my husband. And he said, well, maybe we should buy a pregnancy test. And I said, a what? And then sure enough, I was pregnant. So you besides my husband were the first to know that I had a little baby on board. But I
That's
guess
so
let's
special.
backtrack
Yeah. So
because we can
special.
digress
So
into all kinds of
special.
conversations. But Deane, her name is Deane. Also, her brand is Deane. So we met in a leadership course. I'm going to say it was brilliant. It was brilliant for us at that time, and I think we were both very benefited from it.
Mm.
But what was interesting is it was quite a large, the start was quite large. It pared down over the 6 months that we were part of it. And I think you and I both struggled equally because it was run out of San Diego, and we were joining in the middle of the night and going into the early hours to attend this course, which was almost a 7 hour commitment daily for the first 3 months, wasn't it? Before we went into practice. So we were doing that, and then we were both doing our business at the same time. So we had an hour or so of sleep, and off we went into. I was very new at my entrepreneurial journey, and you were a little bit in advance of me. And I think we bonded not only over our similarities and our struggles in the course, but also in our shared entrepreneurial experience, which is has been very fruitful for you. And Catherine was so kind and called me a few years into our friendship and said that she was going to renovate and really revolutionize your London flagship store that's in Wapping, if anyone's interested, and asked if Crux wanted to be involved, and we jumped at the opportunity, and I think the end result has been incredible and all led to you and your leadership. A hundred
Oh,
percent.
you're so humble because truly through that course, I think we both felt equally magnetized to each other. But I just saw this incredibly beautiful, incredibly talented woman who was so tenacious, so passionate, giving it her all, didn't even realize how amazing she was. And I was like, I love this woman. So yeah, it was kind of what do they call it? Like synchronistic, I think, us meeting.
Serendipitous. Yeah.
Serendipitous, that's the word, serendipitous. And in such a big group of people, which was a virtual platform as well. And I must say, when I came to think about that London boutique renovation, it really was through like meditation and prayer of, okay, how would this happen in a way that's really meaningful and aligned with the values? And I literally felt an image of you pop in, and it was, this is who needs to do this project because, and I think you called it your love project, and I think the space really represents that. There's such a incredible like experience and feeling of peace and love, and of course the product is bridal. So I'm so grateful because you've just been an absolute ray of light and such a talent yourself. So, yeah, it's very special to have met you that way unexpectedly and then been friends since.
Yeah, and we also met for the first time physically, met during, I want to say it was at the end of the build, and you came, and we ended up spending some time together buying the finishing details for the store, and
Yes.
we traveled really via Addison Lee, didn't we? And
Addison
collected.
Lee, we hit the high streets. We bought up a lot of aubergine plants, piled me back into the taxi. And yeah, it was such an interesting time, wasn't it, in COVID, where everything was virtual. And so we were like forging meaningful relationships virtually, and then to actually finally get the in-person meeting, and it's just that much more special, isn't it, when you've forged something special virtually, but then you get the in-person meeting, and it was just
Yeah.
such a joy. Yeah.
And the hug. The hug is always so important,
Mhm.
isn't it? Just that physical touch of, I love you, and now I can hug you and let you know how much I love you. She's
Yeah.
incredible. And the
Yeah.
brand, I want to touch on your brand a little bit before we get into it, because you've developed this incredible bridal wear. And I said, if James and I ever get married, I want to wear a Catherine Deane. And I remember your words. You said, we'd love to dress you. And I thought, that's so, you've said it in such a loving way. And I think your brand really represents that. You're such a kind, soft, feminine woman, but you also balance that with such strength, direction, and knowledge. And I'm constantly in awe of what you do. But seeing your bridal wear and all of the pieces and I'd love for you to talk about the labels that go inside and the detail that you spent that we then poured into the design of the space to really replicate what you've built as a brand and where you're going. But all based around the beauty of women and the honor of women, and the leadership of women, which is really what we're here to speak about today.
Yes, yes. Thank you for all of that. I think it's so beautiful because I said that at the time, and then it came to fruition that I had the privilege of dressing you, and that actually happened towards the end of the build, didn't it? So it just felt like this full circle experience of you helping us create and enhance a space because we'd been in that location for 13 years in Wapping, and we then decided to take extra space, and essentially we just opened it all up, and the discussions were around our vision being to create a world where women feel beautiful and valued. And I think I've been reflecting on that quite a lot recently, just going through some quite big life changes, and how often, yeah, it's often the contrast defines, doesn't it? So I think we've all been through experiences, and I see this commonly in the workplace where people come to me and say, I actually had quite a traumatic experience in the previous place I worked. And so I think we've all been through those experiences where we say, okay, I know what I don't want. So I've had the company for 21 years. I'd say that's always been the foundation of things. But as time goes by, I've kind of defined the vision and values even further. And I stand so passionately with that vision because I think as women, yeah, we're up against different sets of challenges. And if we can create a space and an experience for women where they truly feel beautiful and valued, and they enter into a space that feels non-judgmental, a space where the bridal stylists feel like a best friend that's there to, I say to our bridal stylists, you're not just stylists, you're also therapists, because there's a lot of psychology in the process of helping a bride choose her look. So yeah, I would say that I stand like so passionately with that vision of what we are creating. And I think you were able to come in and experience that also through your own wedding and process of choosing bridal looks. But yeah, helping us to translate that into a physical representation in the space. And we said, because it's a circle within a square, and then it's got the six arches that open up into change rooms, that it felt so feminine. The space was curvy. The space felt like it was like a womb, like you, the ceilings are quite low. We had to work with low ceilings, but actually it translated into feeling safe and feeling held. The brides having their own private change rooms so they could go with their bridal parties into that space, like valuing that need for intimacy with their bridal party and feeling yeah, not exposed in the process of making those decisions. So I think I put like a stake in the sand for us, so to speak, of an up level for the brand, because the flagship was then became this incredible physical representation of the vision of creating a world where women feel beautiful and valued.
Well, and that's, I love, thank you. I love that. As you were describing it, I was remembering the process and that we described that womb like experience. We talked a lot about how brides can be really judgmental of themselves during that moment, and that can be emotional. And whilst you're kind of balancing the excitement, you're also balancing, past scars, and how do we create this place of safety and psychology and and I guess leadership within your team to hold space for them and hold privacy and give quiet moments and give a more interactive experience in the circular space, but also the entry. I think that was another big part of it, that entry and seeing the glow of the space of the heart in the middle, but having to go through the well, there's the secret VIP room, isn't there? It's not really, I don't know if we say VIP room, but there's so many hidden gems, which I think also is in your bridal wear and definitely inside you. Every time you speak, there's these little hidden gems of knowledge that you impart on people in such a kind and soft way. And I think actually that's a good transition to kind of, we've already started discussing, but I think flipping it to a little bit more of the questions that we had prepared today. The whole purpose behind this podcast is getting to understand leadership from all different ways, and how that leadership then, in my mind, I think I'm just collecting knowledge to understand how can we build spaces better ultimately for a physical representation of the leadership. And I think you were talking a lot about how the new flagship then created this new kind of point for your leadership to move into another chapter. You've already experienced so much success. So we're not going to talk much about that today, because what I think all of us want to know and pick your brains on is, how did you become so successful, and how is such this soft, feminine, strong, talented beauty actually start building something that sells internationally. And as you expand, you have to expand your leadership, but you actually have a limited exposure to your team because you have so many teams now. Catherine's in South Africa, is where her home base is, and then she's got stores or vendors throughout the world, and then you've got this very successful wholesale where you're selling to even further reaches because stores are housing you. Yeah, and I think you have this, I want to just pick your brains on it. You have this ability for people to even just view you on Instagram and instantly trust you. And my experience of instantly trusting you is, I had gone and I had tried on all of the dresses with one of your very talented, um, not saleswomen, but what do you call them?
Bridal stylist.
Bridal
Bridal stylist.
stylists. And we had a look, didn't we? And actually, the jacket that you're wearing today was part of the look.
Yeah.
And then you called me about 9 days out from the wedding and said, "No, no, that's not what you're wearing. What you're wearing is this beautiful ostrich feather jacket and this column skirt." And I trusted you. And it showed up a couple of days before the wedding, and I absolutely loved it. And we went with that, and it was everyone's favorite look. Everyone loves it still to
Yeah.
this day. So you have this ability to draw people in, but I think it's because you put everyone's best interest, maybe not first, because I think you do that for yourself, but you definitely honor others at the same time as honoring yourself, which is almost like an Oprah Winfrey thing. You you
Well,
can offer so much because your cup runneth over, I think. And with your cup runneth over, that is what people get, an actual piece of your heart through your clothing or through their interaction with you online or their interaction with you in person.
well, thank you, Heather, because that feels like a real witnessing regarding the trust piece. And I think what's really interesting, you asked me, how did I build this brand? And I can't say that I had this grand vision from the start of I'm going to create a global company with a global footprint and sell all over the world. But it's been a real faith journey. And I think I have high levels of faith in terms of there's a level of even when things go horribly wrong, I think I'm quite good in crisis and I can pivot quite quickly. And I've had a lot of times where things have gone wrong and sometimes badly wrong. Um, so it's not been a straight road, but it has been for me personally quite an organic journey of a following a step by step and kind of looking at where the magic is and then taking that next step. So starting it in London in 2005. And then there was this move to Hong Kong in 2007, 8, which allowed me to set up a team there and to essentially work directly with all Asian suppliers and factories, which now is why, I think we offer a really high quality product at it's like an affordable luxury purchase. Yeah, and then evolving to after establishing the team, they're moving back to London, which is 2012 when we acquired that space in Wapping, which we've recently renovated with you. And then 6 years ago, setting up the Cape Town office as well. So it's been really a step by step process of just seeing where the opportunities lie. I've definitely made mistakes. Like we opened a US boutique and office, I think it was 2014, and I assumed it would be very similar to how the London boutique and office had played out, and the American market is just so different, and you need really enormous marketing budgets to kind of make a dent there. So, we ended up closing that. So there's been, I think, I think there's a few ingredients there. It's like for me, also having this absolute passion for, I love art and beauty, but I'm equally obsessed with commercial relatability. And so I don't want to just create something beautiful that one lady, like one bride, is going to relate to and one bride is going to wear. I've always had this heart for finding the balance between beauty, design, and commercial sensibility. That's always been like the heartbeat, the core of what we do, which is I think also what's had us segue into bridal separates, which has been a niche we've carved out that's been incredibly successful for us. And then I think in terms of really sitting and looking at the why, and why we do what we do, and the fact that I actually started the brand with occasion wear. I didn't start with bridal. So when I started in
I had no idea.
2005, Yeah, I was a ready-to-wear designer, and I definitely say I had a little bit of ego about that at the time, where I was like, yeah, I was supplying a lot of department stores, like American department stores as well, like Neiman Marcus and Bergdorf Goodman, and we had quite a few celebrities even at the time wearing those occasion wear pieces.
Was it under the same brand? Was it
It
Catherine Deane back then?
it was. And the funny thing is that kind of comes back to where my values that I had, that I live by, were a bit misaligned with that season of my life because I found myself finding a measure of success, but feeling so burned out on it because in occasion wear and ready to wear, there's 4 collections a year. Um,
Mhm.
you sell the collection, you deliver it. There's a 3 month window at which the retailer sells, and then it goes on sale. And I just saw a lot of waste. I felt fatigued by the process, that it felt like a burn and churn fast fashion, even though it was a beautiful product and it was a luxury product. It didn't feel sustainable. I really value something that has longevity and timeless quality. So it's so interesting that that value set that I had on starting the brand actually created a seismic pivot in the product that I was creating, because I had literally been praying around. I want to do something more sustainable. I want to do something. I was thinking of like the Hermes scarf. I was like, what could I do that's trans-seasonal, that's could really stand the
Timeless.
test of timeless, can stand the
Yeah.
test of time. Um, and it just wasn't really an option within that framework. So it's really incredible that when the opportunity of bridal knocked on the door, which was through an American retailer that approached me, um, and they were like the first to sell wedding dresses online in 2010. And I thought, oh, interesting. So brides will actually shop for wedding dresses online. They were the forerunners. They also had bricks and mortar stores. They had quite a few, and they approached me, and it was the flow and the alignment of stepping into the bridal world was like palpable. It was instant. The profitability, the that kind of sweet spot where you feel like you in the zone and you in the flow, and it's just so there was so much ease around it compared to doing the ready to wear occasion wear part of the business. And so I just would love to share that I don't think ever be afraid if you're feeling like you're in the industry you know you should be in, but there could be a pivot, there could be a fine tuning that's required to get you into that slipstream of complete value alignment, which is where the
Mhm.
magic happens and you stop hitting up against a lot of resistance and exhaustion, actually, because often when the misalignment's there, that's when we feel burnt out. Whereas when we get into that alignment, and that was a value alignment piece connected to product and a product pivot, that we've since 2010 continued with the bridal, and it's gone from strength to strength. And mind you, I still kept the occasion way going up until COVID, because there was this stubborn part of me. I think that was that seeing this was a revenue driver. Even though by the time we let it go in COVID, it was probably 30% of my revenue. So it's still meaningful in that you've built your business on this and you go, I can't just remove this piece of the pie. But actually, that was the next blessing, because removing that out of the equation, there's that saying like, do you want to go an inch wide and a mile deep, or a mile wide and an inch deep? And I've learned really hard lessons around trying to be everything for everyone is actually so diluting, as opposed to going niche into an area and committing to that and mobilizing your team into that and going deep into that, which is for us being bridal and also bridal separates, which has been a real sweet spot for us as well. And then I think the other thing is please interrupt me if I'm just monologuing here.
No,
But
I find it so interesting. I've got lots of questions going, but I'm really enjoying just listening. I had no idea about any of this, so I'm learning at the same time as those who are listening. So please keep going.
amazing. Um, I think something I value so highly as well, and is a part of me that has also evolved over time, is like a natural empathy. I think that you're really genuinely curious to make people happy, to understand what people want and need, and to give them those things. And so I think that's something that is sort of part of the weave of who I am, I guess, and that it translates in the way of I'm so curious to understand um, how someone ticks, what would make them happy, what do they want, what do they need, and how can we provide that. So some of the most successful, because we are an omni-channel business, we have an e-commerce channel, we have our flagship boutique in London, and we have a wholesale business where we stock globally. And some of the most successful wholesale partnerships I've seen is where I've got to work with the buying teams to ensure the needs alongside them, to ensure the needs of their customers. And I'm just like fascinated about that. So there's been some great learning having partnered with some key retailers who really understand that. And, you know, it's simple things like um, even removing a detail off of a dress where you go, let's not give the customer a reason not to buy this because maybe there's something a little obscure or a little too how would you say, like, I mean, we all love a beautiful design detail, but
Too
sometimes
individualized, maybe too niche, so that you
yes,
want, yeah,
yeah. And
yeah.
so the learnings off of that, but equally the journey of um empathy and leading a team, um and finding a balance within that, because that's been such a journey as well, of finding balance with em- it's empathy in the past where I found there was people pleasing. There could even be accommodating dysfunction in the teams. And this has been such an incredible journey of really finding that place of like actually asking, what is peacekeeping? You know, it's an interesting question when you ask yourself, what really is peacekeeping? And yeah, I mean, I'm going to go there because I'll tell you what my sort of marker is. And as you know, I'm Christian, and I'm just fascinated when I look at Jesus and how they call him the Prince of Peace. But when you look at his life and you looked at what he did, he was radical. He was confronting dysfunction. He was confronting legalistic thinking, judgmental thinking people, standing on a soapbox, holier than thou, condemning others. And peacekeeping to me is actually this amazing balance of brave communication, calling out where there is dysfunction. And that is actually something that leads to peaceful teams and peaceful environments. So that's been such a journey for me as well, like a culture piece, you know, and we've got the three offices. So there's there's a Hong Kong culture anyway that's quite different to a British culture that's quite different to a South African culture. But then having everyone line up in terms of they feel that they can actually adopt like the vision and values of the company. For us, it's really a piece of, do they align? Are they naturally empathetic? Are they naturally growth mindset people? Are they available for feedback? Is there teachability? And these are all qualities that I question in myself as well. So I'm not just saying I love collaboration. I love a round table structure. So that's another thing that has evolved for me and I just had this real revelation on it recently where sort of pivoting or very consciously, we were doing it anyway because collaboration is such a key core value within our company. But just casting my mind back to even when I was younger and at school, and how I just couldn't really understand these vertical structures and hierarchies within leadership. I know there's a place for it, especially in certain much bigger organizations, but I often found that I could see, not always, but in some cases, unfortunately, sometimes the people that make their way up into the top positions of leadership are sometimes not there for the right reasons, right? And then
Mm.
you can get these sort of controlling dynamics, gatekeepers. And so that's something I'm just so acutely aware of in terms of our team. We are close to 30 people across 3 continents, and that I've just got this vision for this round table circular meeting space that these women, and there's a couple of men, but we're largely women, meet around to have these fantastic dynamic open conversations. But that, of course, that takes a level of emotional intelligence, that takes a level of surrender, and someone not needing to be completely in control of their department, calling all the shots and gatekeeping. So it's just something that's really I've been able to define so clearly, even more recently, of this is the structure. We've got it in place for the large part. It's a little bit of fine tuning to do, but this is for us where the magic lies as well. Because I just love like breaking down those barriers between communication between departments. So people are coming into a workspace and they're excited to meet with someone in their department, but also someone in another department. There's a
A
joy to it.
synergy.
There's a
Yeah.
synergy. There's a joy. Um, I love hearing,
The
our
defenses are
market.
down.
Yes, and if you think about that, isn't that when the best ideas flow? Because when control enters the room for the wrong reasons, it shuts people down. Um,
Ideas,
when
conversation. It builds
yes,
ego because ego's bred from fear, isn't it? So when people walk in and their guards are up, they're fearful about something, then the bravado kicks in and the posturing, and then people limit their input and contribution because they're afraid of being judged or afraid of, I guess, the journey to a good idea, the journey to something new, which is kind of what you're going through right now, has growth built into it. It really does. You can't just go day one, this is it. This is what it's going to look like. It's a journey. You know that you're on a journey. You're doing something completely new, and I have a lot of questions I want to ask, but because you're doing this round table, originally I was talking to somebody on my team, and I said, "Oh, Catherine's doing this revolutionary," and I don't know. I've read a lot of leadership books, but I've never heard of a round table structure, organizational structure. I've heard of matrix, I've heard of functional, I've heard of hierarchy, but this is new, and I've been sitting with it. And initially, I know when I said to you, I said, "Oh, but does that mean that you're in the middle and you're almost like the middle of the spokes?" And then I thought more about it, especially from feedback from this team member. And she had said, "Oh, well, I mean, clearly you can't have everybody be the same. There's got to be, from Catherine in the middle, then there's got to be like her management, and they feed that out to this." And she created quite quickly a hierarchical structure in a circular form. So it was just layers, almost like, did you have these in South Africa called gobstoppers? And they're a
yes,
hard candy that you sucked in every, it made your tongue bleed. But as you sucked through them, they shifted in colors until you
yes,
got to the
yes,
center, which was almost a powdery finish. And I
yes.
was thinking about that, and I was thinking, well, you've just created a hierarchy that is in a spherical shape, and that's not what she's doing. So actually, you're not at the middle; you're at the table, aren't you? And
Yeah.
I wanna, I want you to go more into that. I want you to go more into what made you think about that. And I honestly think there's such confidence in doing that, such surrendering of ego. Your name is all over this brand. Literally, it's all over this brand. And you're stepping away to say we all own it. We all have an equal voice here. How are we leading that? And by doing that, you actually are perpetuating your leadership and your values and your empathy and everything that you encompass by doing that. So I'd really love you to kind of talk about the why you move to that, and maybe what you're hoping will be the end result as you go through these iterations, as you improve it. What is the end result that you're hoping for?
Mm. Yeah, thank you. It's lovely to hear feedback loop already on some of that thinking, and then your colleague or friend saying, oh, but is it like this? And you go, no, because it is an arm in arm. I think I caveat that with saying, um, as the company grows, I think there's a certain level of trust and um, placement that's earned at the round table as well. It's maybe not absolutely everyone, but not for the exclusion of anyone to feel excluded. But for example, our sewing and pattern ladies in Hong Kong, they aren't. There's certain functions in the company that those would require smaller segue round table conversations more specific to that department to understand the needs and the idea flows. So I hope I'm sort of, I want to be clear around it, but this is something that I was in prayer around, and I was given a vision for this kind of structure that was possible. I haven't read it anywhere either, and maybe we need to meet again in a year because we're in formation. But it's so interesting that when I reflect back, I think it's often interesting to cast your mind back to your musings as a child when you were so unfiltered and unaffected by life, by failure, by disappointment, by huge wipeouts. When you enormous wipeouts.
Fights,
um,
boyfriends, all of it.
and so so this is something that's under construction, and definitely it's happening, and it requires a real level of discernment and vigilance with who comes on board. That is key because I think the greatest, like you can have such talent and someone that's very skilled, but if they don't have the emotional intelligence and they don't have teachability and a growth mindset and genuine curiosity, it won't work. It will create divisiveness. It will create silos. It will create us versus them. So I think, again, contrast defines. I think having gone through these experiences over the years of owning the business and just having such a crystal clarity on, okay, this is possible. And so I think, yeah, it's definitely under construction. And what I hope to achieve with this is a level of freedom. And that freedom it feels like it's quite, how do I say, like I say a level of freedom, that's a very broad concept, but I love attracting entrepreneurial people into the company. We definitely are. That's the flavor in the company. And it's not that we have a startup mentality, we are established. So we're not expecting people to come on board and work 18-hour days. We've got quite a kind of settled rhythm. But I think what really works is attracting like-minded individuals who, as I said, have the same similar levels of empathy, emotional intelligence, and they actually want to grip into something and make it their own. Because I think that's the pivot for people when they can feel like they really own something, and maybe they're not wanting to start their own thing, but they are such talented, like we have such incredibly smart talented women in this company who I'm just in awe of their, what they bring to the table. And they get to own something themselves and really dig into that without micromanagement, but equally, there are people that have that growth curiosity mindset, and they naturally have that entrepreneurial flair within themselves as well. So again, you have more kind of analytical roles, you have different departments, it takes on different flavors, but I think that's the overarching vision, and that's what's um, largely in place and building. And with that circular structure, and it's funny because even if I look at my old organization charts, which, typical organization chart, I almost want to like remap this out to look like a
You've got
circle of an
to.
old chart. Because I'm like, we need a
Yes.
visual on this. Like people need to really understand.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and so I think, yeah, that's I feel like there's something new in this. I think as women in leadership, we've tried on a lot of forms of leading, some more traditional, some more how men would do it. I've never quite been able to. For me, I've always had a feminine leadership style. I think what I've had to learn to evolve, because I am gentle and I have got the empathy, is actually how to develop discernment and how to have bold communication and how to also prune when it's necessary for the health of the team and the business.
Yeah, I think I mean, yeah, as you were talking, I think that that's a point that I'm very interested in, which I'm sure others are too, because you spoke about qualities that you want in a potential hire. And I was wondering, I wonder how that's recognized. Is it written down, for instance? If they say something like this, we can tell they're empathetic. Or if they give us a history, we can tell that they have an entrepreneurial spirit, and what we're looking in the entrepreneurial spirit is maybe being comfortable working in the gray and solving problems, for example. So I'm wondering how you kind of piece together the skill set, and it's almost a personality type in a way that would fit. And then I was wondering, do they get to meet you in the process? Or what exposure does the team, the greater team, have to you? Or if there's a way that because of all the hiring that you've done, that your ethos and ethics and values and culture is dispensed to them without connection, direct connection to you. And then I guess the follow up, which was your last comment of, because the one thing that sticks out in my mind always, and this has been since I've hired people to look after my children, which for me was the most expensive hire of my life, much more so than anyone that I bring onto my team. And someone had said to me, hire slowly, fire fast. And I always think of that, because you know the minute that somebody has stepped over one of your boundaries. And if they do that once, they'll do it again, but they'll go deeper and deeper every time. And I think we've all experienced that. So, what I'm curious to know about is at what point do you know the pruning needs to happen after your hireability? Like, what is the moment where you go I know that you can turn it into kind of a holistic instead of my experience of this person was, but there's kind of a, yeah, when this happens, then we know. I have to self reflect and go, our journeys have ended. And I've done that with
Mhm.
clients, which I know you and I have talked about, where I've said to them, and one of them was a massive client, huge, just growing all the time. But our
Mhm.
values weren't aligned, and the treatment, because their values weren't aligned, I couldn't move forward. And so I did up to the point, I over delivered on what I needed to. And then I said, thank you so much for this experience. Our journeys are now going our separate ways.
Mhm.
And I just wish you the absolute most success on yours. And
Mhm.
you know, I, um,
Wow. Mm.
I'll conclude this relationship now. Or I can't remember quite what I said, but something I was proud of to say, I do wish you well. And they are doing so well. But this is where we have to stop because this doesn't work for
Mhm.
me. And I found, which I know you've also experienced, when I have compromised too much, I lose myself
Mm.
and I can't lead the business because I've lost it. And I'm caught in the emotions of dealing with something that's out of alignment and it detours. And every time I walk away from it, more opens up to me every single time. And so that gives me strength because it's happened in repetition where I think the faster I fire, in whatever sense, the faster I walk away from this, the more opportunity will open up to me and the more
Mhm.
fulfilled I'll feel. So I have to
Mhm.
trust in myself
Mhm.
to move forward. So yeah, if I could pass that back to you and have you speak about that cycle, that whole
Mhm.
process.
It's so good, everything you're saying. And I think especially what's amazing that you reference with your children, like you would give your life for your kids. So if someone's coming on board who's not doing what they need to do in the context of your kids, you're going to cut them loose quickly. And I almost feel like that's an amazing litmus to carry, even for your business.
Mm.
Because truly the price we pay for misalignment, and I've often found, I don't know about you, there's you at an inflection point of making a decision, and there can often be that that person or that client or whatever it is actually can perform, or they can deliver certain things, but you know that the trade-off is too high. So there's a somewhat seduction of they can sell, or this is a big account, or whatever it is. And I feel like it's such a moment of reckoning where I feel like heaven celebrates every time we take the right road, not the easy road. Literally,
Right.
because it's so easy to take the trodden path. It's much harder to say, I'm sticking by my values here. And, even though this is tempting because of XYZ, no, it's the price is too high to pay. And what I found is after hiring people and letting people go and many years of that, now I am in every single hiring conversation. If it's just a
Wow.
final interview, not necessarily the first or second interview, but I'm always in an interview before we hire. That is in the last few months. I've just said, we will not, because we're still a small team. So I'm not saying that's the path for everyone and that's sustainable, but there is a level of vigilance in that I'm protecting the health of the company through investing the time to do that. So it doesn't mean that for each role we might get 7 candidates, then the management might distill it down to two. I will meet those two.
Mm.
So that's a way you can reduce the amount of time you have to put in. But even recently, there was a distillation of a couple of candidates for a role, and I met lovely lady, but I just knew this was not exactly what we needed, and I think that's just a discernment piece as well that comes with like it's kind of radical honesty, isn't it, with yourself, because we can almost gaslight ourselves sometimes, going, I'm in a rush, because when you're under the pressure and I need to fill this role. Um, and so we can make these compromises. But what I found is always within the first, we have a 3-month probation period, which I think is similar to a lot of companies. To be honest, if I look back over the years, in some cases, I've then gone on to extend that to 6 months. Even if I've then gone on to hire, I have regretted it later down the line.
Mm,
It's actually
mm,
the when the alignment steps in with the right people, it is head spinningly fast. That is my experience. It is
mm,
quick that you feel the shift in the right direction, that you feel the uplift, that you feel the opening, that you feel movement where there's been stickiness. So
mm,
that's my experience. We can't prescribe things for people. Even a friend recently who she's started up a company. She's so talented. She's making her first hire. And, you know, 3, 4 weeks down the line, she was saying, oh, um, performance issues. There was a few things going on. And actually some of the things that were stated in the interview weren't actually the truth of the capabilities of that candidate. And for me,
mm.
that is the most enormous red flag because I'm like, if you don't have truth, if someone's dishonest in an interview, it's like, the advice I gave her, I'm like, wow, that actually sounds quite hardcore. But I've gotten to that point, Heather, where it almost should become like a zero tolerance for certain red flags and deal breakers. It's like, no, that's a line that's not okay to cross. And I've just been evolving even our appraisal, and I'm renaming it to something else, but we've got like a culture scorecard in there. And I've even put like red flags for us. Like these are deal breakers within our culture because I think sometimes it's important to be so intentional and to define things that if it has to come back to those conversations, it's like, this isn't our culture. So we wish you all the best for going forward to find your people, but we're not your people.
Yeah. Yeah, I heard because I'm obsessed with podcasts, as you know, and I heard a woman, I think she was from Google, and she had said something just like that. They said, how would you fire somebody that isn't a good fit? And she said, well, first of all, I never say fire. I say something like our journey has ended. And what did she say? I'm trying to remember. It was so brilliant. I might have to find it for you and write it in the comments because it was just
Yes, please.
incredible. But she said something like, we're not looking to renew our contract with you right now. We wish you the best of luck, but we think, and we'd love to give you a reference moving forward because we think that you're going to do some really great things for another company.
Yes.
And it was
Yes.
like, we're not firing, but you don't have a place here any longer. It was definitely the message.
Yes.
But I think there's somebody for everyone, isn't there? And whilst
Yeah.
it's not personal, it's not a good cultural, emotional value fit for us, but there's 1,000 other companies where it is. And so I'm releasing you to find a better fit. And
Yes.
once you find the better fit, you're going to be happier and more successful as well.
So good, because I think our human nature can often be to remain in situations because it's almost like the unknown can feel more scary than the uncomfortable or situation or work that we're in that we don't really like. And so I've also approached it with that if it's not working for me, it's most likely not working for them.
Yeah.
And actually, you are freeing them up to find a better fit. So I think that's a beautiful way to look at it. And like we would, I said, oh, because we're not your people earlier, but like we would never say we're not your people. I
No, of
think
course not.
I'm saying that in the sense of
Yeah.
a understanding of a misalignment.
Yeah.
And I think there is levels of graciousness that we get to have because we're all human. We
Yeah.
all get hurt by rejection, even if it's better for us. So it's, I suppose, it's like the reframes of how we get to graciously release people. And I think that looks different in everyone's case. I think some people are gracious themselves and realize this is better for everyone. You know,
Mm.
some will be hurt and there might be another response. So it's really case by case, but I think that's a really beautiful way to look at it, that if it's not working for you, it's very likely not working for them. And
Mm.
free them up to go and find their people.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. What's your future plans? Are you going to grow this table? Is it going to go from 30 to 100? Are you quite happy with your 30? What are you feeling?
Um, I love a smaller group. Um, I can lay plans and it remains to be seen what will happen. At the moment, I am actually working on a ERP system to get ninja fast levels of data information processing across the board through across all departments. So we don't necessarily need to make more hires. We actually just can free up time in across roles. So because with the more people you hire, it's the more people management as well. And so I think we're just looking to get leaner and more efficient through app levels and systems. We are also at the moment, we are partnering with a number of wholesale agents globally to expand our reach while not having to hire internally. So we've just taken on partners in Italy, and we're about to get across the line with Australia and some South American territories. So that's really exciting because our internal team are fantastic on the wholesale side, but there's certain territories that are so specific and so niche and really require specialists in those areas who can grow that business. So I also quite like broadening the net or expanding the tent without
Mm.
necessarily having to do a lot more internal hiring right now. So
Mm.
really, there's a great opportunity for us on wholesale and wholesale expansion. Yeah, so it's definitely expansion across all channels. But I think wholesale is probably the biggest opportunity, and I'm super excited about our up level of systems. Just to create deeper levels of transparency across all departments, data management, because as you know, when you've got data at your fingertips, you can make informed decisions, strategic decisions. So that's I'd say the next year or two.
Do you have
And
an independent party that's done that, or are you doing that internally? I haven't heard about this yet, so I'm learning about it at the same time.
yes, this is the discussions
Mm.
it's been the last few months, but we're mobilizing it now. That is someone external to the
Mm.
business who is going to help us set that up. So I think it's always interesting, like navigating when it's a permanent hire or when you would outsource something. And we've had to juggle that over the years. I even think about our marketing department, you know, for example, our paid for advertising, which for e-commerce, which helps and supports our e-commerce sales. We've got a consultant who does that, but I've worked with him for 5, 6 years now nearly. So there's such a rapport there, and he
Mm.
also treats the business like his own. He's got a few accounts, but it's not an agency I'm working with, because I found that working with agencies, you just become a number. So there again, it's finding these individuals who think like you and who operate like you. And that's where, again, those beautiful synergies align, where they really feel like part of the organization, but they're not on the payroll.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. I found those team members myself, and it's incredible when someone will buy into your dream and not even be an official part of the team. They're a subcontractor, or they're hired to do a specific campaign, but it's another love project for them that they'll give it their all, and that's incredible. And I think a testament to you and your who you are, your natural leadership, your high standards, your ability to bring somebody into the folds of your dream and let them have a piece of it as well. It's beautiful. Beautiful what you've done.
Thank you.
What an accomplishment. I mean, a story of ready to wear to this beautiful, I know it's not an empire, but it's this beautiful, just, um, well, it's a world, isn't it? Because we even have that on the wall when you walk into the boutique of just this beautiful world of beauty and acceptance and love and all of your labels. You are loved, you are blessed, you are, what's the last one?
Treasured, you are chosen. Oh,
You are
this is
treasured.
I am
I
chosen.
am loved.
I am loved. I am treasured. Yeah. So
Yeah.
those are our affirmation labels, and it's a beautiful little detail that the bride, no one else sees it necessarily, but she knows it's in there, and it's like in her piece, in her dress, and it's really the value piece that she knows how valuable she is. It's the self-worth piece and the value piece, and I suppose encouraging her and championing her as she walks down the aisle, that she may experience that. It's a kind of blessing that from us,
And I think
to
again, it
her.
just you give so much more than you get in every minute. You just honor and love your brides. That's what I feel from you in every experience I have.
Well, thank
It's
you.
it's such. I think we've reached the end of the time. I have so enjoyed this conversation. I don't want to keep you for longer than I promised. And so we've gone a little bit over, but I have just so enjoyed this conversation. And I would absolutely love to have you back next year and hear how everything is going. I think I was thinking about, in business school, we were learning about the Hawthorne theory. And I don't know if do you know this one?
No, I don't know it.
And it was based on the new stages of the industrial ages, and everyone started work in factories here in the UK. And they found that whilst when everyone was first employed, they worked really hard, long hours. But then they slowly took a drop, and then that drop over time got significant enough that the company itself became not as profitable. And they had a team of psychologists come in. And the psychologists thought, I don't know what's happening. The skill is there, the energy is there, the same people are there, and yet the output is decreasing steadily. And so one day they just turned the light down a little, and the productivity went up. And the next day they turned the light down a little more, and the productivity went up. And for over a course of a week or two, they went all the way so that soon people were working in pitch black, and they were still improving their productivity. And they had everyone come into a room like a roundtable discussion, and they said, please tell us what is going on. And everyone opened up and said, we just wanted to be part of something. And we could tell when you were lowering the lights that something was happening, and we wanted to be a part of it. And that's what made me think, this round table, you have something here, because everybody wants to feel valued and a part of something. And if you give them literally, quite literally, a seat at the table, what could you achieve? I'm excited. I think I think there's some magic in there. I'm excited.
Me too, sweetie. Yeah, thank you for your encouragement. And that's such an interesting story, and of what's an account of history, and how we have to, as a company, the woman inside have to feel beautiful and valued. to be authentic, to create an experience for every customer, every supplier, everyone we work with, that radiates out. And so I think that's the broader vision. And I think it is a big vision. There's this beauty we create, but it's also how can we leave this planet better off than we found it? We can create worlds, like God's given us intelligence and resources and courage to do that, to co-create. And so I think that's ultimately like the why as well behind that. And that has to be the heartbeat of the team for it to be a fully authentic experience for those who encounter our brand.
What a beautiful brand. So I encourage everyone to take a look at Catherine Deane. Um, it's amazing. The product is amazing. And I did wear, remind me of the skirt that I have
I
with
think
this
it was
big slit.
Aurora. Yes, with the
Yeah, and I wore it
beaded, the
out for
beautiful
dinner.
beaded. Yes, yes, and the
I wore it
jacket.
with this, actually, this shirt.
Oh,
And
right. Yes, you
it
sent
has
me
a
a
bit of a
picture.
train, doesn't it? And I wore it
Yes.
with black heels into, we're out here in Surrey, and
You must have turned heads.
everyone in the restaurant loved it. And I played it up. I swept it around and let it fall as
Oh,
I sashayed to the toilet.
that's so beautiful. And I feel like that's also the heart behind our bridal separates because we want that longevity. We want our brides to wear the pieces again after the wedding because I'm sure, I don't want to speak for you, but you got to relive moments of that, of your wedding when you put that garment back on because it's such a sensory thing, really, isn't it? Like music or clothing or taste, it takes us, it transports us back to moments. And clothing for me has always been that. Like I have this weirdly photographic visual memory for often what I was wearing, could have been in a moment when I was 5 years old. And so I think clothing very much um, it can be nostalgic. So we almost want it to transport our brides when they get to rewear the separates, the tops, the skirts. It's that sustainability piece, but it's also that nostalgic, that revisiting of one of the most beautiful days of your life.
I love it. I love it. Was there anything else that you wanted to add before we closed out?
I'm just grateful for you asking me to the podcast. And grateful for you because I just feel that you're equally like your vision is to actually make the world a better place in what you're doing through the medium of what you're doing. And I can wholeheartedly say I had the privilege of working with you to do the London Boutique. And I think again that alignment was so natural and I just remember going through the process, all the decisions. There was never a tension, right? Of, oh no, but I want this, but I want this. It was just like there was such a flow in the decision making and the rolling out. I mean, you were just incredible, Heather. I feel like you operate that way, and I just want to acknowledge that and champion that because it's not always the easiest way in business, but I think as women, as we're forging new paths and we are building teams and we're giving ourselves permission to do things in new ways, I think there's going to be some extraordinary results from all of that. And I'm privileged to witness your journey as well and your growth journey with your brand.
Thank you so much. You are a mentor, a friend, and one of my favorite people in the world. So thank you so much for joining today.
Such a pleasure.